The night is a heavy blanket over Utah's winter basin. It's a darkness so complete it feels like it could swallow you whole. Out here, the silence is a living thing. It presses in on you, broken only by the whisper of the wind through the dry brush. But tonight, something else is out there. Something is watching from the shadows of the cottonwood trees. A cold spot hangs in the air. A drop in temperature so sudden it makes the hair on your arms stand up. It's a feeling, a raw, primal feeling that you are not welcome here. This is a place where the veil between our world and another is thin, dangerously thin. Welcome to Skinwalker Ranch. This isn't just any piece of land, this is a focal point, a vortex of high strangeness that defies all explanation. For centuries, whispers have surrounded this 52-acre property. Tales of shadows that move with intelligence, of lights that dance in the sky with impossible speed, and of creatures that should not exist. The ground itself seems to hum with an energy that is not of this earth. You can feel it when you walk here. A static charge in the air, a pressure in your ears. Something is here, something ancient and powerful. It has claimed this land as its own, and it does not like visitors. It watches, it waits, and it lets you know in no uncertain terms that you have trespassed on sacred, haunted ground. Imagine standing there, alone in the dead of night. Your heart pounds in your chest, a frantic drum against the suffocating silence. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of a leaf sends a jolt of pure adrenaline through your veins. You brought cameras, EMF meters, and digital recorders hoping to capture proof of the paranormal. But the equipment is going haywire. Batteries that were fully charged are suddenly dead. Compass needles spin wildly, unable to find north. It's as if the very laws of physics are being bent and broken by an unseen force. This is what investigators face here. This is the reality of a place that seems to be a doorway to another dimension. The energy here is off the charts. It's a raw, palpable presence that builds until it feels like the air is about to crackle and split open. Some people who come here experience intense feelings of dread and paranoia. Others report seeing things they can't explain, dark figures darting at the edge of their vision, orbs of light floating silently through the fields. This isn't just a haunting, it's something more. It's an intelligence that interacts with you, that studies you, that sometimes even mimics you. It's a phenomenon that has drawn scientists, government agents, and paranormal investigators from all over the world, all asking the same question: what is happening at Skinwalker Ranch? In 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman bought their dream ranch. They were looking for a quiet life, a place to raise their children and their prize cattle. They saw a beautiful property, a perfect slice of the American West. They had no idea they were moving their family into the heart of a paranormal storm. The dream quickly turned into a living nightmare. From the moment they moved in, strange things started to happen. It began with a feeling, that constant unnerving feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. They would see shadows moving inside their house when no one was there. Doors would slam shut on their own, objects would vanish from one spot and reappear somewhere else entirely. The activity escalated quickly. It was no longer just a feeling or a few strange occurrences. The phenomena became aggressive, almost hostile. The Shermans reported seeing bright, multicolored orbs of light patrolling their property at night. These were not car headlights or airplanes. These were silent, intelligent spheres of energy that would hover over their fields and their cattle. Sometimes the orbs would zip around at incredible speeds, performing maneuvers that defy our understanding of aerodynamics. The family felt like they were living in a fishbowl, constantly being observed by these mysterious lights. Their sense of safety was gone, replaced by a constant state of fear and confusion. But the orbs were just the beginning. The Shermans started hearing disembodied voices, voices that seemed to come from thin air, speaking in a strange guttural language they couldn't understand. The voices would echo through the house and across the fields, adding a terrifying auditory layer to their ordeal. One of the most frightening experiences was the feeling of invisible forces moving through their home. Gwen Sherman reported feeling something brush past her in the hallway. Terry would find tools in his workshop moved or completely missing, only to find them later in an impossible location. The ranch was alive with an energy that was actively tormenting them. The psychological toll was immense. How do you explain to your neighbors that your ranch is haunted by UFOs and poltergeists? The Shermans became isolated, trapped in their own home by a force they could not see or fight. They tried to rationalize it, to find logical explanations for the madness surrounding them. But there were no logical explanations. The events became more frequent, more bizarre, and more terrifying. Their dream of a peaceful life had been shattered. They were now prisoners on their own land, living in a constant state of high alert, never knowing what the darkness of the next night would bring. The strange lights and disembodied voices were terrifying, but what the Sherman family saw with their own eyes was the stuff of nightmares. They encountered creatures that did not belong in our world. On their very first day at the ranch, they saw a massive, wolf-like animal approach their cattle pen. It was huge, much larger than any normal wolf, with piercing, intelligent eyes. Terry Sherman shot at it several times with a high-powered rifle, a weapon that should have taken down any animal. But the bullets had no effect. The creature just stood there, looking at him, before calmly trotting away into the brush, leaving no tracks behind. It was their first sign that the laws of nature did not apply here. This was not an isolated incident. The family and their neighbors reported seeing a variety of bizarre and frightening creatures. There were descriptions of a large, ape-like beast moving through the trees, and a strange hyena-like animal that was seen attacking one of their horses. They also saw what they could only describe as a refrigerator-sized, shadowy blur that would race across the fields at impossible speeds. These encounters were often accompanied by that same feeling of intense dread and a strange, metallic smell in the air. The ranch seemed to be a hunting ground, or perhaps a habitat for a menagerie of cryptids that defied classification. The most disturbing evidence came from their cattle. The Shermans were experienced ranchers, but they had never seen anything like this. They would find their cows dead in the fields, mutilated with surgical precision. There was never any blood at the scene, as if the animal had been drained completely. Specific organs would be removed through small, perfectly circular incisions. The cuts were so clean they looked like they had been made with a laser or an advanced surgical tool, not the teeth or claws of a predator. There were no tracks around the carcasses, no signs of a struggle. It was clinical, it was silent, and it was terrifying. These mutilations were a clear message. Something with incredible technology and a complete disregard for life was operating on their property. The precision of the cuts, the lack of blood, and the missing organs pointed to something far beyond a typical predator attack. The local veterinarians were baffled. Law enforcement was at a loss. The Shermans were left to deal with the financial loss and the horrifying reality that something was harvesting their cattle for unknown purposes. The creatures they saw were not just random beasts. They were part of a larger, more sinister phenomenon that had laid claim to the ranch. The family was living in a zoo, but they were the ones in the cage. The Shermans were desperate for answers. They soon learned they were not the first to experience the terror of this land. The ranch is located on the border of the Ute Indian Reservation, and the tribe has a long and dark history with this specific patch of ground. For generations, the Ute people have avoided this area. They consider it to be cursed, a place of great spiritual danger. They call it the path of the Skinwalker. This name alone carries a heavy weight of fear and warning. It is a place where medicine men are said to have unleashed powerful curses and where dark entities roam free. The elders warn their children never to go there, especially after dark. A Skinwalker in Navajo and Ute legend is a powerful and malevolent witch or shaman who has the ability to shapeshift. They can turn into animals, most commonly a wolf, coyote, or a massive bird. The legends say they gain their power by committing a terrible act, like murdering a family member. They are beings of pure evil, capable of inflicting disease, causing accidents, and even stealing the faces of their victims. The Ute people believe these entities haunt the ranch, drawn to its negative energy. The stories of the Shermans, the giant wolf, the strange creatures, the feeling of being watched, lined up perfectly with these ancient, terrifying legends. The tribal members told the Shermans that the ranch was a place of transformation, a gateway between worlds. They believed the strange lights in the sky and the bizarre creatures were all manifestations of the Skinwalker's power. According to their lore, these entities can read your thoughts, mimic voices, and create powerful illusions to terrorize their victims. They are masters of psychological warfare. The UTEs believe that even speaking the name Skinwalker can attract their attention and bring misfortune. The land itself is considered to be infected with this dark energy, a permanent stain that can never be cleansed. This deep-rooted cultural fear explained why the Shermans felt so isolated. Their neighbors from the tribe knew exactly what was happening, but they were too afraid to get involved. They had seen the lights. They had heard the stories passed down through generations. They knew that the entity on the ranch was ancient, powerful, and not to be trifled with. The Shermans were not just dealing with ghosts or aliens, they were facing a supernatural force deeply embedded in the history and folklore of the land. They had unknowingly purchased a cursed property, a place that the original inhabitants had learned to fear and avoid at all costs. By 1996, the Sherman family had reached their breaking point. The constant terror, the financial losses from their mutilated cattle, and the psychological strain were just too much to bear. They put the ranch up for sale, desperate to escape the nightmare. The story of their ordeal was published in a local newspaper, and it caught the attention of someone with the resources and, well, the curiosity to take on the mystery: Robert Bigelow. Bigelow was a Las Vegas real estate billionaire with a lifelong, passionate interest in the paranormal, UFOs, and the possibility of life after death. For him, the ranch wasn't a cursed property, it was the perfect laboratory. Bigelow bought the ranch from the Shermans for a reported $200,000. But he wasn't interested in raising cattle. He had a much more ambitious plan. He immediately founded a scientific research organization called the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. His goal was to bring a serious scientific approach to studying the bizarre phenomena that the Shermans had reported. He assembled a team of highly qualified scientists, physicists, engineers, veterinarians, and psychologists, and equipped them with state-of-the-art surveillance and monitoring technology. He wanted to capture hard empirical data. He wanted proof. The NIDS team transformed the ranch into a fortress of observation. They installed motion-activated cameras, infrared sensors, and a network of listening devices all across the property. They set up observation posts and a command center to monitor the data around the clock. They patrolled the grounds, armed not just with weapons for protection, but with a battery of scientific instruments, Geiger counters to measure radiation, EMF meters to detect electromagnetic fields, and spectrum analyzers to capture radio frequencies. Bigelow spared no expense. He was determined to strip away the folklore and superstition and get to the scientific truth of what was haunting Skinwalker Ranch. The Shermans stayed on the ranch for a short time as caretakers, sharing their experiences directly with the NIDS team. Their first-hand accounts were invaluable, giving the scientists a baseline of what to look for. Terry Sherman could point out the exact locations where he had seen creatures, where orbs had appeared, and where his cattle had been mutilated. The transition was complete. The ranch had passed from a terrified family to a well-funded scientific team. The mystery was no longer a private nightmare. It was now a formal investigation, a bold and unprecedented attempt to apply the rigors of science to the heart of the paranormal. The NIDS team began their investigation with professional skepticism. They were scientists trained to look for rational explanations. But, it didn't take long for the ranch to reveal its true nature. The phenomena that had terrified the Shermans continued, and now it was all being recorded. The team documented hundreds of strange events. The glowing orbs returned, and the cameras captured them moving in ways that just defied physics. These orbs would appear out of nowhere, hover silently, and then shoot off into the sky at impossible speeds. The scientists clocked one object moving at over 11,000 miles per hour. There was no known aircraft that could perform such maneuvers. The team also experienced the poltergeist activity firsthand. Inside the command center, equipment would malfunction without cause. Tools and objects would levitate or be thrown across the room by an unseen force. One of the lead scientists, Dr. Colin Kelleher, documented numerous instances of this bizarre activity. They also recorded strange magnetic anomalies. Compasses would spin uncontrollably in certain hotspots on the property. The team discovered that the ground in these areas was highly magnetized, but they couldn't find a natural source for the magnetic field. It was as if something was manipulating the very fabric of the environment. One of the most chilling discoveries was the portal. The team observed what looked like a window or a hole opening up in the sky. It was described as a bright, orange, rectangular opening in the darkness. On one occasion, a large, dark, humanoid creature was seen crawling out of this orange doorway before it snapped shut. The team was stunned. They were witnessing what appeared to be an interdimensional gateway. These events were often accompanied by spikes in microwave radiation and other electromagnetic frequencies, suggesting that these openings were emitting massive amounts of energy. The data was undeniable, but the explanation was beyond their comprehension. Despite years of round-the-clock monitoring and millions of dollars spent on research, the NIDS team could not come to a definitive conclusion. They collected a massive amount of incredible data, but every piece of evidence only led to more questions. The phenomenon at the ranch seemed to be intelligent. It reacted to their presence. If they set up a camera in a specific spot, the activity would move just out of its range. It seemed to be playing a game of cat and mouse with them. The team concluded that they were dealing with a complex, multifaceted phenomenon that was likely not from our world. They had the data, but the mystery was deeper than ever. The strange events at Skinwalker Ranch did not go unnoticed by the US government. The data collected by Bigelow's NIDS team was too compelling to ignore. In 2007, the Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA, secretly approached Robert Bigelow. They were interested in the national security implications of the unidentified aerial phenomena and other strange activities documented at the ranch. This led to the creation of a clandestine multi-million-dollar government program called the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, or AWSAP. Its mission was to investigate the paranormal and UAP activity at Skinwalker Ranch and other hotspots. For the next several years, the ranch became a secret hub for government-funded research. Bigelow Aerospace advanced space studies a company founded by Robert Bigelow, was awarded the contract to run the program. This meant that federal agents, military personnel, and government-contracted scientists were now on the ground, working alongside the NIDS team. They brought even more advanced technology, including sophisticated sensors and surveillance gear. The investigation was now operating under a cloak of government secrecy. The focus shifted from pure scientific curiosity to understanding a potential threat to national security. What if the intelligence behind the ranch was hostile? The AAWS investigation uncovered even more bizarre and unsettling evidence. They documented numerous instances of what they called hitchhiker phenomena. Investigators and their families would experience paranormal activity, poltergeist events, apparitions, strange synchronicities, in their own homes, sometimes hundreds of miles away from the ranch. It was as if something from the ranch had attached itself to them and followed them home. This had terrifying implications. It suggested that the phenomenon was not just tied to the land. It was a contagious, parasitic force that could impact people's lives long after they left the property. The psychological and physical effects on the investigators were profound. The program was officially defunded in 2012, but the interest from certain government circles never truly went away. The final report from AAWSAP, parts of which have since been made public, concluded that the phenomena were real, but their origin and intent remained unknown. It raised more questions than it answered, pointing to the possibility of non-human intelligence interacting with our world in ways we do not understand. The government's secret involvement confirmed what many had suspected. Skinwalker Ranch is a place of unique and significant importance. It's a place where the veil is so thin that even the most powerful government on Earth wanted to know what was on the other side. In 2016, Robert Bigelow sold Skinwalker Ranch to a new owner, real estate mogul and technology investor Brandon Fugal. Fugal, like Bigelow before him, was not interested in using the land for conventional purposes. He was driven by a desire to understand the mystery. He assembled a new team of scientists, researchers and investigators and launched the most intensive investigation in the ranch's history. He brought in ground-penetrating radar, drones with thermal imaging and a host of other cutting-edge technologies. The goal was to leave no stone unturned, to drill into the earth and scan the skies in a relentless pursuit of answers. The haunting, however, was far from over. The new team immediately began experiencing the same high strangeness that had plagued every previous owner and investigator. They documented UAPs on a regular basis, capturing high-resolution video of objects that moved with impossible speed and agility. They recorded intense electromagnetic and radiation spikes that coincided with paranormal events. Team members reported experiencing severe medical effects, including nausea, headaches and strange skin burns after being exposed to energy fields on the property. The hitchhiker effect also continued, with researchers reporting terrifying paranormal activity following them home, affecting their families and their daily lives. The ranch was still very much active. One of the most significant new lines of investigation involves drilling into the ranch's unique geology. The team has been exploring the possibility that the mesa overlooking the ranch acts as some kind of massive antenna or energy conductor. They have drilled core samples and conducted seismic tests, trying to understand if there is something underground that is causing or attracting the phenomena. The data suggests there are strange anomalies and voids beneath the surface. Is there a hidden base? A natural feature that amplifies energy? Or is it something else entirely? The team is literally digging for answers, trying to uncover the secrets buried deep within the cursed land. Even with all the new technology and the dedicated team, the core mystery remains. The phenomenon continues to be elusive, intelligent, and often interactive. It seems to adapt to the methods being used to study it. The team has captured some of the most compelling evidence of paranormal and UAP activity ever recorded, but a final explanation is still out of reach. The echoes of the past, the Sherman's terror, the NIDS investigation, the government's secret program, all reverberate in the ongoing work. The ranch remains a place of profound mystery, a puzzle box that has defied every attempt to unlock it. Today is July 13th, 2025, and the enigma of Skinwalker Ranch is as powerful as ever. After decades of observation, from the terrified eyes of the Sherman family to the high-tech lenses of government-funded scientists, we are no closer to a definitive answer. What haunts this small patch of land in Utah? The theories are as strange and varied as the phenomena themselves. Some believe it is a portal, an interdimensional gateway that allows entities and technologies from other realities to bleed into our own. The orange rectangular doorways seen in the sky lend powerful support to this incredible idea. A doorway to where? We still don't know. Another leading theory is that the ranch is a landing spot or a laboratory for an extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence. The sophisticated UAPs, the surgical precision of the cattle mutilations, and the advanced energy fields all point to a technology far beyond our own. Are we being studied? Are the creatures seen on the ranch biological specimens from another world? This theory suggests that the ranch is not haunted in the traditional sense, but is instead a tightly controlled environment being used for purposes we cannot begin to fathom. We are like ants observing the actions of humans, unable to comprehend their motives or their methods. Then there is the theory that aligns with the ancient native legends. Perhaps we are dealing with something supernatural, something that defies the laws of physics because it does not belong to the physical world. The skinwalkers, the poltergeist activity, the intense feelings of dread, these all point to a spiritual or paranormal force. This theory suggests that the phenomenon is pre-natural, an ancient consciousness tied to the land itself. It is a power that can manipulate our perceptions, read our thoughts, and manifest our deepest fears. It is not an alien from another planet, but an entity from another plane of existence. The only thing we know for sure is that something is there. The evidence is overwhelming. The eyewitness accounts, the photographic and video data, the scientific readings, they all tell the same story. Skinwalker Ranch is a place unlike any other on Earth. It is a warning, a chilling reminder that there are things in this universe that we do not understand. It challenges the very foundations of our science and our perception of reality. The question is not whether the phenomena are real, but what they are. And as long as that question remains unanswered, Skinwalker Ranch will continue to be a beacon for the brave, the curious, and the foolish, drawing them into its dark and profound mystery.